The consumer is starting to get squeezed. We all feared that as inflation was taking its hold. But yes, I've got 3 indicators that show the consumer is getting squeezed. I've got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. All right, so what we all feared turns out is apparently starting to happen based on a few data points that I'm going to show you in just a second. Consumers starting to get squeezed. We're starting to feel the effects of inflation, okay, in a few different but very tangible ways as opposed to just looking at CPI or core inflation numbers, okay? Why is this so important? Well, number one, you and I, we all feel this, and I'll get to some application here in a moment. But the other thing is 70% of our GDP, said otherwise, 70% of our economic activity comes from consumers. And if the consumer is all of a sudden feeling squeezed, they're feeling tighter than they actually would like to feel, that's going to decrease economic activity. That's going to mean companies won't reach their revenue targets, their profit targets, and all of a sudden we see ourselves in a recession or a contracted economy, which there's warning signs out. To me, these data points showing that the consumer is starting to get more squeezed suggest those might be valid, okay? Yes, we've got pent-up demand and other things, but the recessionary concerns may actually be valid. Let's get into this. Take a look at how much credit Americans are taking on right now. Credit card balances, consumer credit ballooned in March, the last data set that we have, by the most on record. 52.4 billion versus 25 billion estimated and 37.7 billion in February. Take a look at that chart, guys. It's off the chart, right? Obviously, we had the needle dropped during the pandemic, and credit card companies started limiting how much credit was available and all of that sort of stuff. Everyone hunkered down when the economy went into that deep, deep recession. Would have been a depression, right? But now we've seen the exact opposite. So why are consumers all of a sudden more comfortable putting things on credit? Well, it's possible they have more confidence, but if you look at consumer sentiment, you would argue that's not the case. I'm saying it's because the consumer is being squeezed. They've either said yes to certain things that now cost more, or they've got dollars committed over here, but then they need to spend dollars somewhere else as well, and those prices are even higher. This, to me, reveals that the consumer is squeezed, and it is any sort of credit is you're spending dollars today that you're not going to earn until tomorrow. So a balloon in credit today means we're going to have less economic activity in the future because we've got to use the income that's generated in the future to pay for these credit card bills, the expenses we have today. We're having the economic output and activity today to generate these credit card balances, but we've got to use tomorrow's income to pay for it. Not a good sign for the consumer or for the economy. Next, and I'm using a chart that overlays both. You can see in blue the consumer credit, but in red is the personal savings rate. Now, when no one could go anywhere and the government was throwing helicopter money at us, the actual savings rate spiked significantly. It's fantastic, and yet we all knew it wouldn't last. It was temporary because you couldn't spend, you couldn't go anywhere or do anything, and the government was just giving you money. We knew that that would come down, but look at how far down it's come. What's that latest data point? Yeah, our personal savings rate is below pre-pandemic levels, is below. Now, hopefully, just like we had that, the personal savings rate increase significantly and then come back down to earth, maybe this is just, gonna go below that trend and then come back to normal. But guys, when you've got the personal savings rate, as in the discretionary income that the average household has, now going below pre-pandemic levels, okay, and accompany that with credit card balances ballooning, this reveals the consumer is tight. They are getting squeezed. They've got less disposable income and less choice with their dollars, and things are tighter. And then lastly, we all know this. In fact, the best data point that I had is back from February. Guys, it's gotten significantly worse. But Housing is a non-negotiable. Yes, you have a choice as to where to live. You have a choice as to whether you sold your house or bought a house, whatever. But think about the college graduates. Think about the newlyweds. Think about the people that are wanting to buy a house. Maybe they've saved up and this is one of their largest financial goals, and they now have to buy a house in this market. They're now forced, right? We all have choices, but take a look. The average housing value, the medium house is around the entire United States has increased 20%, and you've got mortgage rates that have gone from the lowest level, on record to now the highest level in 10, 15 years, okay? The housing affordability, now this, guys, this is just January to January, okay? Went from $1,400, the average mortgage payment, on a median house, okay, to $2,000. That's an increase of $600. Guys, it's near $1,000. It's near $1,000 more right now based on today's interest rates and housing values. However, yes, earnings have increased. Yes, earnings have increased, not quite as much as inflation, but on an overall basis, they've increased. But your earnings have increased on average $130 a month. And yet your house costs now $600, or realistically today, $1,000 more. Guys, that's going to squeeze the consumer. And if you say, well, yeah, but that's mortgages. What if someone doesn't buy a house? Yeah, rents have gone up by nearly the same amount. I think 18%, 17, 18% is the average rent increase. So guys, you've got a non-negotiable with housing prices or the housing costs going up significantly. At the same time, credit card balances have ballooned and personal savings rate has declined. And we're not even talking about overall CPI, overall cost of groceries, of gas, those sorts of things. So the consumer's feeling it. We're feeling it. You are feeling it. I know you are. So what are some things that you could take away from this data? And I want to speak specifically to these 3 points. Number one, manage how much credit cards you use. I personally I would encourage you, never charge anything on a credit card that you're not going to pay off when you get the bill, okay? That's the 3 bank account system, all right? If you have a 3 bank account system where you're managing your budget for all your immediate expenses, that stuff that comes up every single month, and therefore anything you charge on the credit card you'd pay off because you've got that built in your budget. A 2nd bank account, you're saving up in advance for known upcoming expenses that don't happen every single month. Maybe they happen every quarter, once a year, every couple of years, something like that. Those are usually the ones that you'll use the credit card on because they are larger, okay? And you get some points with those. But you should charge those, but then you've got the money in your delayed spending where you can pay that off in full when you get the bill. And then the 3rd bank account is you've got your fully funded emergency fund, that if an emergency happens out of the blue, got to go to the ER or emergency car repair, something like that, you can use your credit card, but then you've got the money in your emergency fund right there, so when that bill comes, you pay it off completely. Credit, guys, credit's like fire, okay? It can warm your food, it can, warm your house, it can also burn you. Okay? And if we do actually head into a recession, I think a lot of people will get burned based on the amount of credit they've increased and they've allowed to fester in their life. Don't do it. Follow 3 bank account spending plan, okay? And make sure that your credit cards as a balance remain manageable and you pay them off every single month. 2nd, personal savings rate. Guys, continue to save, especially now that the market is getting closer to cheap, by the way. Make sure you're saving 15% towards your long-term goals, okay? That 3 bank account spending plan is also known internally here as an 85% spending plan, where ideally you've got 15% of your take-home income that you're able to squirrel away, save for either delayed spending or emergencies or for some other goals, okay? Let alone you should be saving hopefully 15% going towards retirement into your tax sheltered account. So yes, expenses, it costs more to live the same life that you lived 2 years ago. It does. And I know that can encroach on your ability to save. But fight that back. Update your budget, fight that back, and continue to save aggressively towards your goals. And then finally, make sure that your housing decisions don't crowd out the other priorities in your overall financial life. Yes, houses are more expensive and interest rates are higher, okay? Does that mean you got to sacrifice on some of what you hoped to do, some of what you wanted to do with your house so that you can continue to save the right amount for college, for your kids, and retirement for yourself, or vacations and that sort of thing? Or do you need to make some sacrifices in those areas so that you can have the house or live in the area that you want to live? Either way, make sure that you're doing that with awareness, okay? Looking at your entire financial life through your financial plan, saying, all right, I'm intentionally making these trade-offs so that everything can fit, okay? Make sure your housing doesn't crowd out the other major financial priorities that you and maybe you and your spouse have. Work with your CFP on all of that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with the K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.